Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Financial Advisors Workshop. This is the program where we at Four-Star interview some of the top financial advisors in America, and we get a chance to meet some really interesting practitioners. So this is financial advisors talking to financial advisors. And, sometimes we don't talk to each other enough. So this is an opportunity to hear what some great people are doing in our business. And maybe we'll all learn from it. Maybe we'll pick up some ideas. And that's the whole point of it. So today in the Financial Advisor Workshop, we have Andy Esser, and Andy is a senior advisor, and he's got many letters after his name: certified financial planner, and a number of others, financial advisor at Edward Jones in North Carolina. So Andy, welcome to the Financial Advisors Workshop.
Thank you, Brian. You make me feel old calling me a senior advisor.
Well, you're senior in experience, right?
I suppose I finally crossed that threshold. You're probably
That's
right.
more than 10 years, right? More than
I
10
guess
years.
so. That's what it is, isn't it? That's the make or break.
Absolutely. Well, great. Well, you have a great story, Andy. And if you could just do us a chance here and tell us just a little bit about yourself and how you got into this business.
Sure. Happy to. And thank you for the opportunity and for the appearance. And I don't know that my story is so terribly unique compared to anybody else. It seems like, and I've done a number of collaborations with other advisors, and it seems like financial advisors aren't born into the industry. They more discover that this is a calling for them. And that was certainly the case for me. I wasn't born a financial advisor or stamped or minted or anything. In 2008, I was practicing law, actually. I was a real estate lawyer working for a boutique firm out of North Carolina that did business law, did estate planning, did real estate law. And you might remember in 2008, real estate wasn't really the sector to be in.
Oh,
and
boy.
I was a newcomer to the law firm and found myself a little bit of fish out of water, knew some of the knowledge, but the practical application of that and working with clients, especially in a time when nobody knew what was going on with the economy. Nobody knew what was going on with real estate. So there were a lot of questions and uncertainties, and I quickly found myself on the outside of that practice, but still wanting to give back and wanting to help people because, again, nobody knew what was going on with the economy, and that really resonated with individuals that I was coming across in my journey here. So in 2008, there weren't a whole lot of financial advisory firms that were hiring. Edward Jones happened to be one of those. And I applied and was lucky enough to get brought into the industry. And the only thing Edward Jones really gave me to begin with was the opportunity to build a book of business. Mm-hmm. And so I've done it a little bit the old-fashioned and traditional way. I started with nothing. I've got most of it left. Started in 2009 working one-on-one with people to understand their needs, help connect the dots with what investments were going to make sense for them, even in an environment where we didn't know what the next shoe to drop was with the economy.
No, we did not.
So was able to build it one by one, and I'm proud to say over 15 years, we've amassed about $150 million in assets under care. We serve a little bit over 300 households, family units with complex needs, some in North Carolina, some up and down the East Coast, but have clients as far west as California, Missouri. So what we find is that as long as we bring our best every day to work with clients, that we end up making a difference in their lives and they end up trusting us with more. And we hope to earn that every day.
When you talked about 5 principles that lead your efforts and lead your life, actually, maybe we talk a little bit about those.
Sure. It's taken a couple of years and a good deal of maturity to realize that a person could try to max out in being a sales expert. I know I listened to one of your previous episodes and someone mentioned that this is something of a marketing career, and I can understand that. And there are a lot of people who are going to try to max out and be a top producer in their firm, or they're going to distinguish themselves by carving out a really solid niche. Mm-hmm. And as I continue to work my way into this business, I realize that there's a richness of life that if you just focus on the numbers, you're likely to miss. Mm-hmm. It's taken me crossing over into a new decade before I've been able to really articulate that. But I have a podcast as well. And on my podcast, I try to talk about the 5 key areas of life where if you make progress in those areas, you're likely to live a fulfilled life. And those 5 key areas are personal growth, professional development, family engagement, community involvement, and spirituality. I don't know if there may be others. I might be wrong. I might be missing something. Maybe I'm duplicating one or another. But that seems to make sense for me. If I can at least make progress and grow in each of those areas, then I know I'm not leaving anything on the table. I'm giving the opportunity my all, and hopefully I'm improving the world as a result of that.
Excellent. Well, good. Well, how do you serve these client families?
It has been an evolution and a lot of learning. I
Okay.
mean, you've probably seen the industry change over your years. I've certainly seen it change over 15 years. Less of a focus on the rote investment management
Mhm.
and more on that personal connection, making sure that you're leaning into a person and understanding what makes them up. And it's not just what their goals are. It seems like you've probably seen the Fidelity value advice stack, where people actually derive value from their relationship with a financial advisor. It used to be just access to stocks, and then that turned into access to mutual funds. And the access has been almost virtually commoditized. I mean, to the
Mhm.
point where a computer could pretty much figure out your investment allocation. So, where advisors try to add value next is in translating that investment to what people's goals are. And that's not unimportant. But I think, Brian, and you can probably relate to this, there's a whole order of magnitude of additional influence and difference if you can help people articulate and craft their goals
Mhm.
by tying it to the core values, by tying it to the things that are really, truly important to them. For example, Edward Jones came out with a study just last year, worked with a group called Age Wave, and
Mhm.
it has done a survey of retirees over the past 40 years. And my parents' retirement is different than my grandparents' retirement. And people in our generation, our milieu, that our retirement strategies and goals are going to be different than what it was for our parents. Keeping
Mhm.
on top of those trends by doing one-on-one interviews with them to find out what core values really resonate with them. What do they want to reflect on, and what would they like to be known for? If we can understand with the core values, Simon Sinek would call it the why. If we can understand that, we can grow into the how of what it is going to be that allows them really to feel fulfillment in that area.
Mhm. Mhm.
So to translate that into what we do and how we try to work our practice,
Mhm.
we engaged with a consulting firm out of California, CEG, to understand their process. And it really aligned well with what we were already doing. It just gave a little bit more structure and formality to it. But it begins with a discovery conversation that is not uninvolved. I mean, we're talking about an hour and a half to 2 hour commitment to interview clients and get into all the different facets and aspects of their life. Try to turn that into a comprehensive plan. And from that, then where the rubber meets the road, it's that investment counseling. But it comes back to understanding advanced strategies like wealth enhancement,
Mhm.
wealth protection, wealth transfer, and charitable giving, all the while interacting with their centers of influence,
Mhm.
their COIs.
So then how does that translate into like specific investments and such? You get the holistic view, and then where does that go from there?
It is interesting because the path for investing almost becomes clear just by dint of their answers. You know, my clientele runs the gamut. You can run the average to see that most of the clients, I've got a lot of simple IRA participants, and so that adds to the household count. Not yet, maybe add to the assets under care count, but that's all right because I was raised in the business to believe that everybody knows somebody with investable dollars. And more than that, even if they may not have the wherewithal right now to be a truly meaningful client, they're still a meaningful relationship. And they deserve the dignity of having somebody who can give them a half hour, an hour to make sure they're pointed in the right direction and making good choices. But so for every client, it's a little bit different. But I think I would say our target relationships where we're able to add extreme value are those clients who have seven figures. They have control over their own destiny. They might be C-suite executives, mid-level professionals who are rising in their field, family business owners, maybe multi-generation business owners. Those are where we can really lean in, bring the full resources of what I, as a former lawyer and a lot of designations after my name, all those letters are kind of pretty, but it's the knowledge that I'm able to bring that they don't know. And I'm sure you can relate to this, Brian, is if people uh, tend to do very good at maybe making money, but in the managing of that or steering their own direction or articulating their goals, that's where they could use a little bit of help, closing the loop on that so that they can realize what is possible. So we're able to bring that experience, that expertise to make a meaningful relationship and make a fulfilled life for them.
So how has that gone this year? This has been the worst market year. We talked about the bond market a little bit, but this was the worst year in 2022 that we just ended since 2008. So now you started right around then, although you caught it near the bottom in April of '09. But so good timing there.
Yes,
But
nobody would have called it the textbook time to start a financial advisory practice. That's certain. But I remember so many people seeing March 9, 2009. I'll never forget. I was talking with a banker, And he said he was in a public setting and he had to be the know-it-all. And he said, this is a dead cat bounce. Remember the dead cat bounce that people were talking about? Well, that dead cat ended up having some legs and some 9 lives and finally rose. And I always find it interesting. But yeah, the worst stock market since 2008, the worst bond market since 1842.
Yeah.
Well,
no bear market is perpetual, but it feels like it when you're going through it, doesn't it?
Boy, it certainly does. And I remember the flash crash of 2011. I remember the bear market that nobody talks about in 2015 and 2018. Remember the Christmas surprise that we had where the market was off 19.9%, almost there is a bear market. It comes back to just an understanding, level setting client expectations up front. And I am shocked actually that not enough clients get told by their advisors how often to expect their portfolios to be down in value. A lot of clients, or a lot of advisors, it seems it's really self-serving to say, yeah, we could get market average return and just kind of take that as a given. But there is no average year in the market. Market is going to fluctuate wildly. There's never been a year where the market hasn't been lower than it was at the beginning of the year on January 1st. So to help give people that expectation that we build portfolios in anticipation of volatility, not to avoid volatility, because it's in the volatility that the opportunity is. It's like Warren Buffett says, whether it's stocks or stocks, when he always likes to buy quality merchandise when it's marked down. So I think some of that folksy advice, it's real easy to get away from the fundamentals of the business, talk about extreme strategies, exotic strategies. And I'm all for innovation in the space because that's what unlocks potential. We see it with technology. We see it with modes of thinking. But when working with one-on-one individuals, we are emotional beings that think. We are not thinking beings with emotions. So tapping into people's emotions to help make sure that they're calm, that they're approaching things logically, because it's in having that plan that people are actually going to be able to have a successful, fulfilled life.
Yes. So when you did the reviews with clients, as you're discussing this past year, how did they react?
I was surprised by how much steely resolve some people had. I think it's a holdover of the pandemic. We've had almost 3 years now where we've just been braced and expecting the worst. The bloom is off the rose for the Goldilocks economy of the slow growth and low inflation environment. And so I think people are starting to batten down. But I do think that leads to some misgivings. I think we've got a window of opportunity still with my own practice to help make sure that people are keeping their eye on the price, raising their gaze. I was interviewed by the Wall Street Journal a couple of years ago, and it was right around 2020, back when nobody knew what was going on with the virus. Nobody knew we were going to turn off the economy. We had to turn it back on again. How was that going to work? And I really needed some meditation, and I needed to lose about 50 pounds as well. So I started running, and I started just going around my neighborhood. And what I found is my natural gaze is to kind of look ahead of me 6 to 8 feet for where my feet are going to land so that I don't trip or roll my ankle. I'm of the decade now where a rolled ankle can spell pretty disastrous consequences.
Oh, yeah.
But I was noticing my times, I was keeping track of times. Always, you can't control what you don't measure. So I was monitoring my times, and I noticed that my pace, I wasn't lighting the world on fire. I was, around 11 minutes maybe for a mile. But I had either heard a podcast or somehow caught the phrase, if I raise my gaze and try to aim towards a target that I'm actually going for, and it might be cresting a hill, it might be the horizon, it might be something that is a quarter mile ahead of me. If I was able to do that and just focus my gaze, lock on that the step-by-step, the day-by-day, or the step-by-step interaction wasn't going to make that much of a difference. But what I found is if I focused on where I was going rather than where I was, my time went down. And I was able to finally get under that 10-minute mark, under that 9-minute mark. So I think clients, I think that's a compelling story that we all can, as advisors, can relate to, is if we can help our clients raise their gaze to the things that are important to them, focus on those things and let the vagaries of the market work themselves out over time, because you have traders and they're playing a minute-by-minute game, a day-by-day game. We're not in it. We're not playing their game. We're in this for a 3 to 5 year to a 10-year horizon. And so what happens day by day shouldn't matter to us. It only should matter insofar as we're able to buy more shares at a lower price.
That's right. That's right. That's one advantage for sure. So Andy, I see that you're an Eagle Scout, and being an Eagle Scout myself, I know how important that was in my life. I have a few sons that are Eagle Scouts, and I'm very involved in that program. So tell me about your Eagle Scout work, and has that helped you in the industry?
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit in anticipation of this, and I've had a couple of minutes to reflect on my answer. I wouldn't trade my scouting experience for anything, and I was one of those lifelong people. My dad only made it to second class scout, so I wasn't following in his footsteps with that. I was really kind of blazing my own trail, but I went in from Tiger Cub all the way through Eagle Scout. I aged out before I was able to get any palms, but I certainly earned the merit badges enough. I just didn't have the time. But it comes back to the course that put my life on for what core values were important to me. And I come back to a scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, and brave. Can still rattle it off 30 years later because it's ingrained in me. And I'd like to think I've distinguished myself in living out those things. Nobody becomes a financial advisor and is entrusted with people's life savings unless they are trustworthy.
Mhm.
Nobody is able really to curry favor with their organization unless they show a little bit of loyalty or pay that loyalty back to their clients. Nobody's able really to be a good advisor unless they have a spirit of being helpful. So as much as I'd like to think I've given back to scouting, I helped. I think I was coordinating Eagle boards here in the Durham area, the Maywat District, the Occoneechee Council. And
Okay.
I kept track of them, and I helped over 250 scouts by looking at their Eagle projects, being that Eagle project point of contact that you'll remember the good housekeeping seal of approval. I was their last step between them making progress on their goal and what their plan was. And I found that the principles of financial planning played perfectly into that planning guide for working on an Eagle Scout project, especially the budgeting aspect.
Mhm.
And so it became something of a passive marketing technique for me to bring the scout in, bring their parent in as well, to show what a diligent discovery process was for getting an Eagle Scout project done. And so
Mhm.
playing a part in multiple hundreds of scouts, as I joked with you, the closest thing I have to Eagle Scouts right now are 3 girls here in my house, but they'll certainly have their opportunity if they choose to lean into it. But being a scout made me a better person, and I continue to think of scouting as one of the most powerful crucibles for leadership development that adolescents all around the world have access to.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's great. It's an honor to see another Eagle Scout. So thank you. So Andy, what would you say are the most unique aspects of the practice that you have with clients? What share with us what the uniquenesses are.
Yeah, not every person who goes to a financial advisor is also talking to somebody who has a law degree.
Mhm.
So we
Right.
really lean on that. And it was a funny circumstance. In 2022, I got a letter from the Supreme Court of North Carolina. I had been inactive with the bar because I couldn't practice. I had no desire to practice law again. I'm glad to have had the knowledge. But North Carolina Supreme Court said, we've got a lot of people. I'm paraphrasing. We have a lot of people who are inactive. If you want to stay inactive, that's fine. But after October of 2022, if you ever want to reactivate, you can do that. You just have to take the bar exam again. And that was one of the perks of being inactive. Was the social contract was you go inactive. If you want to reactivate, you take, I don't know, a couple dozen credit continuing legal education hours. You can reactivate your law license. So I didn't want to ever take the bar again. So instead, I sucked it up, and they changed the math a little bit. I didn't realize, but I took 89 continuing legal education hours last year, all in the fields from alternative dispute resolution to family law to tax planning to estate planning, all of it to get a grand survey of it, to bring myself up to speed. And I didn't do that for my own aggrandizement, but people who come to my office deserve to have somebody who's going to go that extra mile for them. Bring a
Yes.
little bit extra care and conscientiousness than your typical run-of-the-mill person. And financial advising is the embodiment of common sense, but that common sense has to be informed by what's really going on in the world. That's the philosophy that I bring when I work with people every day. And not to cast aspersions on people who aren't lawyers, who are financial advisors, because as I said before, nobody is born a financial advisor. I've run into several inspirational colleagues and contemporaries in the industry who are former teachers, former engineers, former doctors, who have come to this because they learned something about life that was a universal truth.
Mhm.
And they were able to wield that into their practice, weave it in so that people could benefit from that with their talents and their treasures.
Mhm.
So the uniqueness of my practice is that my talent happens to be in law. I don't think I'm a terrible communicator. I don't consider myself an unintelligent person. And what I might be lacking in maybe charisma, we make up for in heart with my office. I have two dedicated admins, Jennifer and Kathleen. They've been with me. Jennifer's been with me almost since the beginning, 14 years. Kathleen was a client of mine, and she railed against the idea of becoming involved with Edward Jones on the other side for a long time. But finally, she was able to come online, and she helps to bring a little bit more client perspective than we had before.
Mhm.
But the three of us, and we might be teaming with other advisors in the future in our own office, in our own practice. The three of us, I think, present a really good complement to each other. If I could lean into this a second,
Sure.
I'm a real fan of taking personality assessments, skills assessments, and tests. And in the beginning of 2022, we got exposed to a mode of personality analysis called the Enneagram. I know a lot of people are big on the Big Five. Some are big on Myers-Briggs. We found the Enneagram, which I'm not a psychologist, but I understand there are 9 different points on the Enneagram. Some people are perfectionists. Some people are drive for results. Some people are your friends at the party. What we found is if you can chart these Enneagram all 9 styles on a circle. And what we found was we've got one person who's top dead center at the 12 o'clock position. We've got somebody who's over in the 4 o'clock position, and then somebody who's over at the 9 o'clock position. So the point is, we're all able, just innately as part of our personality, able to bring those and almost relate to anybody who's on that scale, because we all just naturally have found our own niches. And I think that Jennifer's my perfectionist and process person. Kathleen is the person who helps to make sure we've got heart and connection and thinking about people, even when their portfolio doesn't come up on our portfolio review list. And I'm the person who is happy to lean in, especially when people are going through some tragedies or people are going through some really excellent times, and to celebrate that success sincerely in the moment. That's part of the uniqueness too, is that we have that ability to relate to just about anybody.
Nice. So this program, you've seen some of the other programs. This program will be seen by initially a few hundred advisors, and then probably 1,000 advisors over the next 6 months. So if you were to condense some of the great thoughts you brought, you great experience, great success, bring that down to like a clear message today that you'd like. Imagine you're in an auditorium with all 1,000 of those people. What would you tell them today?
I'd start by reminding everybody that when you're working with people, it doesn't matter the quantity that's in their portfolio. Every person that they interact with has different qualities.
Mhm.
Look for the qualities of that person and
Mhm.
help to draw out the best in those people. As advisors, we have that ability to draw it out because we're one of the most intimate relationships that those people are likely to have in their whole life.
Mhm.
I'm sure you can relate to it. I've been sometimes the first or second call after a loved one's passed away. And it's a spouse, it's a child, an adult child on the other end of the line who says, "What do I do?" And it's a very, very sacred relationship that we have, and honor it by what we do. There are a lot of people who get into this business, and um, I like to joke with my clients that I'm not here to get rich off of the backs of my clients, but I'm here to help us all share the riches of this life. If we can do that, I think we're probably going to make this world a better place. We're certainly going to bring the prestige of the profession out from where it was in 2008, make it one of the most respected professions in the industry. You got to lean into that. You got to bring a little bit of optimism and confidence because, as you're well aware, the media talks to our clients each and every day. And sometimes if we're doing it right, maybe we get a chance to talk to our best clients once a month. So there's a lot of inoculation that we have to do to get the media sentiment that people have. If it bleeds, it leads. And that unfortunately shapes their perceptions on what's going on in the world.
Yeah,
We've got
great.
that very narrow window of opportunity to be that beacon of optimism and hope and long-term vision for them. Help raise their gaze to accomplishing the things that are important to them.
The servant leadership, it's really quite good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Andy, this has been a great visit. We really appreciate your being here with us. We've learned a lot, and boy, you have a great message and a great way of delivering it as well. So congratulations on all your success, and thanks for being with us today on the Financial Advisors Workshop.
Brian, it's been an honor. Thanks for having me.
Thanks again. And we'll leave it there, everybody. We look forward to another great interview with someone just as good as Andy here in the near term. So thanks, everybody, for being with us on the Financial Advisor Workshop. And we'll be back again with another interview very soon. Bye-bye now.